historic aerials. Historic aerials. You need to go to it. It's a lot of fun. I'm not a member. I never paid for anything. They'll probably arrest me one day because I go on and I scroll around and look at things. I can see it. You see all the writing on the screen, but you can zoom in and zoom out. This is the corner that we're on right here. This is this corner, and you can see there's a baseball field right there. This is 1955. Okay, when was the baseball organized in Lufkin? Pitzer Garrison, Rip Henson, and Otto Skinner. Those three men had been going down to Silsbee to watch David Skinner, Otto's son, play ball. There was no Little League in Lufkin. They would go down there and they said, this is more fun than anything. People watching these Little Leaguers is just it. And so they came back, and I think it was Otto Skinner. That's what Pitcher says on the audio. He said, it was Otto Skinner that suggested we get together and see if we have a town meeting and see if there's any interest in forming a Little League baseball program. And they had a meeting. He says, he thought it was at the old high school auditorium over there by the foundry. We got a gentleman in the back row here, Bill Berry. Bill, tell us what you told me.
They met, the first meeting, now they did have a meeting over at later.
Okay.
The first meeting, they came in to show them how to organize a Little League program. It was at the Coca-Cola bottling plant. It's the building where the commissioners meet now. They had an old projector, an old film. They showed that all these people were there. And they showed how you go about setting up, joining.
And it showed Little League players and other
And they showed
Eastern states probably.
They had on real uniforms. I was impressed. I was 7 years old.
All right, they filled up, Pitcher Garrison said we were astonished. They filled up the building when they had it at the auditorium, filled it up with people. And everybody got behind it. They wanted to build a Little League park. Well, they built a park right here. And when you get, tonight when you finish, here in about another 3 hours when I get through. When you walk outside and turn left, walk down there, I have drone on the sidewalk where home plate's at. You say, well, how did you do that? Well, I'm smart. No, here it is. Here's how I did it. On this aerial historical deal, I zoomed in on 1955. I got the corner. I looked at this house here. I looked at the roof line. I looked at the street over here, Kerr Street. Kerr Street's still there. That house is still there from 1955, exactly the same. I did my grid lines and crossed over where home plate is. And then I did today, or actually, this 2 years ago. 2 years ago, it's the same picture, like this, same picture. We're sitting right here. We're in left field. No, right field. We're in right field, the place where I started playing baseball. And everybody else that couldn't play, very good, they put you in right field. I remember the first year at Little League, I was 8 or 9, and the whole year long, didn't get to play. You didn't get to play. See, in those days, if you weren't the best, you don't play. They played to win. And they said, the last game, they said, if James Sturrock gets on, you get the bat. First of all, I got to go to the outfield. And then, but it came up, but if James Sturrock gets on, you get the bat, Mayberry. Well, I was in the outfield, and they hit one to me. First ball's ever been hit to me in my life in a game. And I run up 10 feet, and it lands 10 feet behind me. And so James Sturrock strikes out. So the whole year, I played a half inning and didn't get the bat. So thank God my daddy didn't let me quit. But anyway, I thought that was so interesting about here. Another thing, this location in the 7th grade, this location we play 7th grade football, they lined us up literally right here, right across here, toward that street here, all the 7th grade football players. David, you were there, all of us, we were there. They lined us up, they had a whistle, they said, okay, we're going to whistle, and fastest one down here, got to be backfield, guys. I didn't want to be a lineman, so I was running fast so I could be in the backfield. But anyway, that happened here. There's another picture of when the gymnasium was right over to the left. Shan's Gymnasium is over here past the 7th grade, which is where the library sits. Another thing interesting, I kind of get off baseball for a second, in this gym, my father was so interested in all kinds of sports, and especially basketball too. He formed a group, because you got the Lufkin Panthers, you got the junior high Cubs, and he formed a group called the Kittens. Who in this room was a kitten? Raise your hand. four of us in here were kittens. We practiced at my dad's house. He built a gymnasium in the house. I mean, a nice gymnasium. And we played all the time, and we did Sweet Georgia Brown music, and we did all this kind of drills and whatever, and we were good. Some of the people in this room were outstanding. I was just fortunate. I'm kind of like the Forrest Gump of sports. I was just kind of there and all the stuff that you're going to see. But I got to associate with some super people. And but we played the older class. Did we beat the 8th grade or the 9th? What, we beat the 8th grade? We played the 8th grade. We're 7th graders. We beat them. So anyway, that was a good time. All right, I want you to hear another gentleman.
Now, which colored team were you on in the 7th grade?
That was the kittens.
I was a yellow.
Yeah, okay,
Hang on a
there
second.
you go. I was green.
All right, let me find it. I think I got him on the very bottom. Here we go. See if you recognize this person.
I was a gold.
Maybe I'm sitting in here with Bud Wood, his home.
Bud
This is the
Wood.
11th of May 1983. And I want to introduce Mr. Wood and this play. In fact, the part that I can remember about Lufkin baseball, there was a few people involved that really come out in my mind as being the leaders and the fathers of our bunch, or my group of boys. And Mr. Wood, you're certainly one of them. My father and Mr. Meyer, Roy Myers' father, and Mr. Lowe, and all the ones that were coaches and involved in any way with us boys in the early years. I cannot think about those days without seeing your face and seeing Mrs. Wood and my mother and everybody that was out those ballparks all those late nights.
Let me quit talking to you here, Bubba Wood.
The reason we're here today is to add more to our collection of people.
Well, I went to be there and talk to you folks about church. And I love them the track, they use it to build the field to play on. And then later, of course, it was moved to the complex, that we know now is,
Mr. Wood just said they came to him and asked to borrow his brand new 1951 tractor to build the park, which is right where you're sitting.
Our spring now,
the Morris Spring to the park and Richard Garrison Field. Then as a promoter of it, I'm sure that it was 10 years from then before I really got actively involved in it. I'm going to guess it must have been 19, the late 50s or the early 60s. That I got involved with your daddy, Ted Mayberry, Joe Lowe, Buford Maddox. All those had sons about 12 years old. You and Bubba and Rowan, the Maddox boys was about that age. And then we had the people that.
And we'll skip ahead a little bit.
So about $4,000. He said, if I bring $4,000, they just lay it on that bed when you know, back in the field. And I told him,
$4,000 a line of baseball field.
we would. About 2 weeks later, he walked in there with $4,000 laying on the bed and said, will y'all like my field? And we did. And that because we wasn't affiliated with the National Association of Non-League.
All right, I'm gonna skip a little bit on. I got 30 minutes from Mr. Bud Wood on there. At 58 Pitts Garrison, I've got a lot of information there. So one of these days I'll try to get it all into something where the museum or whatever, you can go and sit long enough where you can hear it all. Sometimes on my old recorder, you know, the batteries might have been weak, or sometimes my voice is low and sometimes it's high. It's because of the cheap equipment that we had in those days. All right, I want you to hear, okay, this was 1952 is when they built it here. 1953 it was here, and then 1954, it was only like here 2 years, 2 to 3 of the most here. And it was gorgeous. I'm talking about this field right here, it had, the fence was every 4x8 was somebody's advertisement. Coca-Cola, Taylor Hardware's, Angelina County Lumber Company, all the businesses wanted a part of that. And the stands right across here, covered stands, like little Yankee Stadium. with a press box on top. And everything, I mean, it was gorgeous. It was lit up. It was just the social event and it was new. It was brand new to Lufkin. And so everybody had to come out. Everybody had kids. And it was inexpensive to come out. You know, the women would make sandwiches and whatever and sell popcorn and stuff just to raise money for the league. There was nothing really organized about it except just volunteers. And why? How did they do that? They were all military people. They were all trained to weld. They were trained to be carpenters, trained to paint whatever. Plus, they were young enough to do it. They were young people with energy, with a bunch of kids, and they showed up to do that. All right, this picture is what they call Old Blue, which is Tommy Jean Park. That's the picture, and it'll be up here later if you want to see it. But that's the stadium that's set here. They took the bleachers and moved it out to Teener Park, or what you call Morris Frank Park. And I went out there the other day. David went out, I believe, and located where the old park was, where we played as little leaguers. And but it was like this. This is me as a bad boy. Who else is in this picture that's in the room? Jerry Merriman. Jerry Merriman's right along here, right here in the picture. Jerry Merriman, I call Lynn Bishop, and I hope Lynn Bishop is watching on Facebook, because my wife, you couldn't get it, we'll have to send him something. But Lynn Bishop's in Florida, and he loves baseball. He's writing a history of baseball. But I was talking to him, he said, "You got hold of Jerry?" I said, "Where is Jerry?" He said, "Well, he lives in Lufkin." I mean, it took me like a day and a half to try to figure out where he was. And then somebody came and said, "Well, he lives over there by such and such, you know." And I drove to his house twice. His neighborhood thinks I was trying to rob his house. I left the notes on the garage, everything. But anyway, when Lynn called me back and said, "Get hold of Jerry," yeah, Jerry's going to come. He said, "You know, Jerry's got a record in Little League." And there's several people in here in this room that have records in Little League. But Lynn said, Jerry struck out 30 men in one baseball game.
What?
What? 30 people in one ball game? And I mean, how many innings did he play? There was a longer inning. Jerry, tell us what happened.
Basically, baseball, baseball didn't come to our group until we were 13 years of age, and that was 1952. So we were too old for Little League. We didn't get to play Little League. But anyway, your dad, of course, was the catalyst for making that happen for all of us, and we're forever grateful to him for that. This game you're referring to was a practice game with a team in Livingston. It was just before our group was going to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania for the Tennis League World Series in '52. That was the first Tennis League World Series in the United States, I think, at that point. We got invited, I think, because we were the only Tennis League team in Texas. But anyway, so we played in Livingston, and Jerry Hennington, Janelle's husband here, played on that team, I think. He and Jerry and I exchanged notes about that. We played on a smaller field. The pitching mound was 54 feet, okay, not 60.6. So all the curveballs we threw in there looked like sliders. They weren't very, didn't have much room to break. But anyway, we did 11 innings, and we won it in the bottom. We won it 11th inning, 1-0, because of an unearned run, a bad throw at home plate. The other guy, I struck out 30, he struck out 22. So that shows you that it was, nobody was headed in there.
Didn't go on the record. What Lynn said that, was it Bill Perdue or Squirrel Kennedy catching you?
It was probably, Bill. No,
Bill?
probably Squirrel.
Squirrel Kennedy, Billy Kennedy.
Yeah.
And he was throwing so much heat, he couldn't hold it. It was going to the backstop. He would strike the guy out. Well, in baseball, if you strike somebody out and the catcher misses the ball, Conrad, what happens when Conrad's our catcher? What happens if you miss the ball on third strike?
You can run it first.
The guy can go to first. So another batter comes up. 30 strikeouts in a game. Anyway, very good job there, Jerry. All right, this is something. Everybody remember the 50s. Everybody had baseball cards. This is a Mickey Mantle card. I hope that's not my bike, but it goes, when we took our mother's wooden clothespins and we put them on our bicycles. Why did we do that? Because make it sound like a motorcycle. All right? So we thought that was the coolest thing in the world. We all had baseball cards. Okay. Y'all have baseball cards, everybody is traded? All right, just a second. Everybody's traded, look at your card. You got your players, you got your team, your two people on the team. All right, if you got, raise your hand if you got Joel Davis. Joel Davis, all right, come up here, sir, Mr. Berry. You got a prize.
That's got to be unique a few weeks ago, I'm walking.
This is a Pete Runnels batting device that he put out, I guess, in the sixties or whatever, and he gave a lot to, I think, Bubba Wood's daddy and my daddy, but you figured your batting average, there's no computers back then, but you could roll this thing, you could probably figure it better with a pencil. But, this is pretty cool, that thing online, $175. So, the baseball card, this guy, he's worthless.
We should, he used to come up here, Lufkin done some clinics for us.
Oh, yeah.
We were young. All a bunch of-
Pete Runnels, see, we're talking about Pete Runnels. Here's Pete Runnels, our Lufkin hero. Everybody just knew who Pete Runnels was in Lufkin. They didn't know who Pete Runnels was nationwide so much because he was just unsung hero. Because he lockered next to this guy. You know who this guy is? Ted Williams. He lockered right next to him with the Boston Red Sox. But he beat Ted Williams 2 years in a row at the American League batting champion. Lufkin got 170 pounds. Okay. He was also a friend of my father's. This is me and my little brother and Pete Runnels in front of our house at Winston Park. So he would come to see Dad quite a bit. Dad had befriended him when he was little. Mike Jones grew up in an area and Pete was right across the street. But Pete was like 12 years old. He would go duck hunting with my dad. Dad said one time they shot a duck. And it was cold water in a duck line. And Pete just dove off in the water. Dove off there and had to go get the duck. So he was really fond of my dad. He came to see him in the hospital before he died. And I've got a cassette in here when I went to his funeral. Down in Pasadena, and I recorded the whole funeral. But he was quite a guy. This is another team. This is back in the early days of Little League. Look, when they take pictures of ball players now in Little League or whatever, everybody's standing up looking good, looking sharp. We look like Sandlot here. I mean, everybody's kind of slashed up. It's just everybody. Joe Roach has got his shirt unbuttoned to here. Danny Stanley on the side. There's Buddy Gibson. I look like a weenie. And there's Paul Abney, Darryl Collier, Chuck Murray. Bunch of fine athletes right here. That's the Yankees. That's the Yankees in Little League. This is another thing about Little League back in those days. Safety. Safety was important to us. You look at the helmets that they wear today. I mean, you could fall out of a space shuttle, and not get hurt. Because you got a mask here and all the protection. This was our protection. Actually, I've got a picture that David Skinner gave me. I can't find it, of the first game played right here. They didn't have a helmet. He just batting. Umpire was protected with one of those big blow-up things, but they're sitting there, and the people in the stands dressed like they're going to church. I mean, it's an awesome picture. I hope I can find it. How many of you remember these? Everybody remember those? The old water bucket? The old galvanized bucket? Everybody had one. As you played ball, you get them down the sporting goods store where you bought your bat, your glove, and you have one of these. And what did we put our batting equipment in? What did we load all the baseball bats and everything?
A rack.
A duffel bag. Why did we use duffel bags? Because they're all the military guys. All of the coaches and everything had duffel bags, or you could go to war surplus and get whatever you needed. But another thing that came to mind on this, when we played ball in the 50s, in the early days, you had this big block of ice that you dropped in there, that you bought out there on this end of the gate. On the way to the ballpark, you drop a big old thing of ice in there, chop a little bit of ice pick, and you had one drinking cup hanging on a piece of wire. That was it. Now, a little bit later on, somebody came up with the little pointy cups and everything, and a few people used it. But we didn't care about COVID. We didn't care about getting sick. We didn't get sick. We played ball. All right. Here's two guys that you may recognize. that are here today. If you're in this picture, raise your hand. You may not can stand up. If you're in this picture, raise your hand a little higher there, David Pavel. All right, where's it over right going?
I was taller than he was.
He was taller than him. Let me tell you something. I told you a while ago, I'm the Forrest Gump of baseball because I played with some greatness, and these guys were great. Unbelievable in everything they did. This particular one on the right, on this side, and Joe and Butch will probably agree with me, was Superman in anything that he played, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, anything that David Bavell played, he was going to be the best at it. And when we would go out to the park at Teeter Park and play what they call Old Blue, the Little League, before the game, we had some guys that could just park it. Mike Jones could just park the ball. Joe Green, Joe Lowe, different ones. They could all just knock the ball out of sight.
But they couldn't hit a curveball.
Couldn't hit a curveball. Anyway, David, if you want to go with me sometime, we'll go out there and I'll show you where the field's set, kind of by the German prison camp. And but when we would practice before the game and do batting practice, a lot of us could hit home runs. A lot of us could hit a home run. In fact, I've got a recording where we hit 4 home runs in a row in a Little League game, and I hit the 4th one. And I've got a cassette tape over there that's got it on there. But when we did practice and we started hitting home runs, of course, it's out of the park as a home run. But Jones and Bavell, and probably Butch too, and Green, didn't count them as really big home runs unless they went over the light wires. I'm serious. Light wire, home runs, and then this guy, I was out there the other day. I'm walking out there with my dog. There's nothing out there but those soccer fields. And I'm trying to find out where I am. Where is the park? I've got it. This is it. This feels like it. This is hallowed ground. And I'm looking out there and I think, those trees. That's the tree that David hit the balls in. It's the same size. It hadn't grown at all. And so 2 days later, David and I were talking about this meeting, and he said, you know, I went out to the ballpark. I said, yeah, I was out there. He said, what about the trees? He said, they hadn't grown any. They're the same size, right, David? Anyway, I treasure that. All right, we're coming up to 57. And 57, is there anybody here that was involved with anything in 1957? That was it part of it? There's 2 gentlemen right here, but let me read something here. Gary Steller was going to be here, and I think he's going to write an article tomorrow about us, about this meeting. But he wrote a deal a few years back called Boys of Summer of 57. Summer baseball. Summer means baseball. Always has, always will be. Maybe even more 50 years ago, before the electronic age, before the TV in every room, before personal DVDs, players, iPods, and other devices that kept so many youth locked indoors. Back then, the last day of school celebrations trailed straight to the nearest ballpark or sandlot, where those boys of summer wanted nothing more than to be like Stan Musial, Henry Aaron. They wanted to play as long as daylight and Mama would allow. Out of their love for the game grew an event that lives on in Lufkin sports history lore even today. 15 boys, aged 13 through 15, a pair of grown men serving as coaches, and a local sports writer who would create his own legacy in time, he embarked on an odyssey that led to a Pony League World Series championship. This is Lufkin, Texas. It started in 1952. This is 57. We're world champions. None of the watered-down thousands claimed by the disappropriate numbers of modern leaguers. Seen every league in every state had World Series now, but in 1957 there was only 1 championship per age group. 1 championship. You had to fight your way all the way to Washington, Pennsylvania to get through. They did it. These boys didn't even have matching uniforms. Nobody expected them to do this. At the beginning, they didn't pay attention. They were all kind of focused on the little boys. You know, like T-ball today, you know, everybody comes up T-ball, and as you get older, this gets thinner and thinner, and the parents get meaner and meaner. That's what they did. They did it, those boys. Didn't even have matching uniforms in the beginning. They endured the share of ridicule along the way because of it. Kids who couldn't disguise their awe of the big cities, kids who, their longest trip before had been to Diboll and back. Kids who never in a million years dreamed of becoming the reason for the word Lufkin to make its way to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Coopersville, New York. As that summer memories drift away, soda pop burp, taken by the wind blowing into the Rhine, so did those boys. A few remained in Lufkin, building their lives and professions right here in their own hometown. Others scattered all over Timbuktu. But this was the summer of 1957. Stand up if you were on the championship team, 1957. Give these guys a hand.
We were undefeated, untied.
Undefeated and untied. My next door neighbor, and I'm gonna let Jerry say just a few words about that, and Bill too. My next door neighbor across the fence was John Collier. So I got Peter Owens coming to the house. I got John Collier on the other side of the fence. I got Lynn Bishop on the hill, and my father, Ted Mabry, is my daddy. I mean, am I gonna be in baseball or what? Tell us about what it was like in '57, Jerry.
It was quite a deal. We had two of the best pitchers in the country at that time, John Collier and Jerry Bob Register. And Jerry Bob was a pitcher as well as a catcher. So when Jerry Bob pitched, I called a couple of games in the World Series. And, played against 8,000. We had about 8,000 or 9,000 fans in the stands.
Wow.
And, you was talking about in Houston, we had two tournaments, one in Houston, one in Lubbock. In Houston, we won the tournament. They refused to give us the trophy of the winning team because they said we didn't have enough pitching to do anything else. And so we shot them the finger and drove them. To this day, we never got the trophy that we won in Houston. Then we went to Lubbock and won the tournament there, and then went to Washington, Pennsylvania.
We pass this around. This is Point of Living Champions, 1957.
I'll let Bill tell
Pass it
the rest
around.
of it.
Well, I guess I'll tell the rest of it.
Huh?
It was big, but
Yeah.
I was 13. Jerry and I were 13. We were the youngest too on the team. And, we went to after we won in Lubbock, we came home and we were gonna go to Washington, Pennsylvania, and most of us had been out of the state. And went to Jacksonville and got on the train, the Sunset Limited. We rode to St. Louis and we spent the night and got to see the Cardinals play the Braves.
Oh, man.
And saw Hank Aaron. That was the year they won the World Series, '57. And then we got to Pennsylvania. We rode a train the next day. We rode to Pennsylvania. One thing, come home. We got back to Jacksonville, and one of the things that he was talking about, this community was very supportive. There were so many people from Lufkin there in Jacksonville, you won't believe it, and the sheriff, the police chief was named Shammerhorn, and he drove his police car to Jacksonville, and we came home in a procession all the way down 69 from Jacksonville to Lufkin. Mr. Temple had a truck, a flatbed truck, parked up there at Central School, which is now the Civic Center, and we all got on this flatbed trailer, and we rode down First Street, and I guarantee you, people threw confetti out the windows of the building.
Ticker tape parade in Lufkin, Texas.
Anyway, that was fun.
That was
I got
Go ahead, Jerry.
one thing to say. Billy Carr, he was our shortstop. And he was as fast as any rabbit you'd ever want to be. And in one of the ball games, in some way he got on first base. I don't know if he walked or what. But the next pitch, he stole second base. The next pitch, he stole third. The next pitch, he stole home plate. The next time he came up to bat, the catcher said, "I heard you were fast, but I didn't know you was that fast." But that's honest, his record as far as stolen bases. We came up there 50 years later, the same ballpark that we'd played in. It's 13-year-olds. 50 years later, that made me 63, and most of the others were 64. And, the record still stands for his stolen bases.
Well, it was an awesome time. And that team,
Jerry Bob home runs.
you see pictures up here of us in '63. We'll never give up the fact that we're the only team that went in '63. But in the opinion of most of us guys in '63, this team was the greatest ball players that Lufkin's ever seen. All right, I want you to hear somebody you may recognize, Jerry.
Yeah.
Baseball fans, this is Mike Mayberry, and I've got the privilege of being the city. Herman Bates Senior on Reading Street here in Lufkin, and we happened to bump into each other last night at the Panther baseball game, and Jerry Bates, his son, was here, and so I thought we'd all get together and kind of talk a little baseball. I'm sorry we don't have Herman Junior and Senior here this morning, but we'll try to get them on tape a little later on.
Well, it's hard to get them all together one time.
Well, Mr. Bates, I want to, like I said, it's a real privilege to get to be here with the Bates family because you cannot look back through the baseball history and all the clippings and so forth without seeing the name Bates. And it started at the beginning, and you still see them all the way through. And then go out to the ballpark, and everywhere you look, you still see somebody with the name Bates. And
I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit.
I'm sure we didn't take vacation, we take baseball trip to tournaments. I
We've got 38 minutes of Mr.
Right up the
Bates.
ballpark, make sure the sprinkler systems were off. You didn't put the ground on.
All right, I want you to hear somebody. There's another gentleman that we haven't mentioned, is your daddy. Glenn Berry. Glenn Berry was kind of like Casey Stengel. He was the baseball. He lived and breathed baseball. He was in baseball before baseball even showed up in London. He was still doing it, and he's very instrumental. So hats off to your father, because he really put it all into the sport and made it happen. So thank you, Bill. I want you to hear from a guy that played here. I meant to play this one ago.
All around here, as all the Berries, I guess, have been all the way.
And still are.
And still are active in baseball. But I know Mr. Berry and a guy named Roscoe Starling. They had a little old softball league out here. They wasn't. But
Don't tell me y'all don't know who this is.
Artie.
You don't know who it is?
Artie?
This is your brother.
Oh.
This is your brother, Artie Dixon.
a few teams, and we played at Winston Park. Now this was before, I guess I was 10 or 11 years old, and I don't even know if we had names of the teams, more or less. We'd just get out there and seemed like we chose up, and you ended up on a team, and we played out there pretty regular. I think Roscoe Starling was affiliated with Calvary Baptist Church then.
I'm gonna get him over here.
Hey, good sporting goods. So they had to go out. I'm sure it increased their budget because they had to go out and buy Little League shoes for us to from the radio because of his grammar.
Yeah.
Use of grammar.
He was too colorful for his time.
Yeah. So.
All right, I'm gonna skip ahead there. I'm chopping in because his is really golden. But what he talked about on here was his uniform. So when we were coming through, those kids, how many of you were Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts? Most of us. So we had uniforms as little scouts. But the next uniform you ever had was a baseball uniform. And Artie talks about putting his baseball uniform for this league at this location, whatever, and riding all over town on his bicycle to show off his baseball uniform. But he also talked about the number of people and the crowds that showed up at a little big game for 9, 10, 11, 12-year-olds. It was just unbelievable. All right. I'm gonna skip past a lot of stuff. This is a team in Summer League that my father coached with Roy Sinclair and Joe Lowe. Somebody can come and look at pictures there. But the same pictures, same people that are on these teams when I'm in Little League are on this picture too. I mean, it came right on through. It was kind of like the starting lineup that we had in Little League that won all this stuff was the same starting lineup or somewhat in 1963. And I've got a whole tape of Dick Gartemall that I'll play later on that talks about that year. I recorded him talking about the whole year and the main game, and what happened. And he talks about the fact that he didn't need to coach us. In fact, he said, he confessed to us because he said, I never played baseball. This was our coach in high school in North State. He said, I never played baseball. I was a football player. He said, I'd come home and read books and try to keep up with you guys. If you looked at any of these pictures over here, if you look at me in the Little League picture, about 9 and 10 years old, I just looked like some kind of guy in a prisoner of war. I just looked pitiful. And I wasn't a threat to anybody on a baseball field. But this is what I looked like after we won state. Now, after we won state, I think I looked pretty darn good right there. I mean, it was a boost to everything. When you became a state champion, everybody, everywhere you go, would want to know about it, how did it feel, and everything. And you just kind of walked a little taller, and it just carried with you the rest of your life, you know, that you were a state champion. And the other good thing is that nobody's ever done it since, before or since. I think most of you seen this picture over here. That's us coming off the field. That's another picture of the state championship team. This is another thing of in high school when we played with steel cleats. You didn't play with the rubber cleats, you played with steel cleats. And you played with, if you were really sharp, you bought what you call kangaroo shoes, because they made us believe that the kangaroo leather was going to make us faster, you know, lighter leather. So we had kangaroo. Here's another picture of the state championship team. Now, getting off of our team, probably the best thing that happened in Lufkin in the recent years. Anybody recognize this picture? I thought Bud was going to be here. This is a Little League World Series 2017 champions of the United States. How many of you listened to that game? My goodness, my goodness. I think we all went to were we in the place over there? Where was it? Buffalo Wild Wings. All listened to that game. Here's another picture of Bud with the ESPN. And I was going to talk to Judy and say, you know, I don't know if Bud's going to be in trouble or not. I mean, this girl's got her hand on his shoulder and looking at Bud like he is really a great coach and everything. But anyway, I'm probably going to mention that to Bud. This is him coming into the stadium, to the rodeo arena, because they brought everybody around and introduced him in Lufkin for a long time after that. And I walked over and shook hands with him. This is one other thing. I'm ending it up here toward the end. I'm a grown man. I'm into pulpwood business with my father. It's long after baseball's over. I've already been to college, and I come back home. And I'm in the wood business with my father. But he still knows everybody in baseball, and he knows Buddy Hankin. Buddy Hankin was a scout for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and then he moved up and coached for the Astros. And he said, Ted, you're bringing your pulpwood team pulpwood guys to the Astrodome? So you come up there and I'll let y'all, of course Daddy could get in free. But he said, yeah, we'll come. And so I told all the men at the logging job, pulpwood job, I said, look, we're going to the Astrodome. If y'all get so many loads out at 12 noon, we're going to shut this thing down. We usually work till we can't work, and we work on Saturday or whatever, try to get another load, try to get another, pay the bills. But I said, get so many loads at 12, we're going to leave, going to load up the motorhome, and sandwiches and cold beer and whatever. Daddy doesn't drink, he'll drive. And so we'll go to the Astrodome. Boy, you seen skidders move? Well, they didn't even stop to pee. They were just rolling and rolling. We finished up about 2 o'clock, had all the loads we normally get. We got loaded them up, they all went home. And then I was supposed to put them in my motorhome about 5 or so and to head down to the Astrodome. And I didn't even recognize my guys. All these guys that had pine rolls on and torn shirts and torn jeans and sloppy old stuff, whatever, And I saw these guys walking up, and they got yellow suits on. They got the derby on. They got everything. All they've been Rudd cleaners. They're looking good. Looking real good. They loaded on that motorhome. We went to the Astrodome, and if you can see this picture, this is the big scoreboard. Remember the scoreboard, the Astrodome, what would happen if a home run it would just light up all over the deal. They could put all kind of names up there. This, up here on the scoreboard, he said, watch the scoreboard in the 7th inning. It says, and we were all sitting up there, my guys had all kinds of big cigars, Astro caps, and all the stuff they bought. And it says, special welcome, Mayberry Timber Company, Lufkin, Texas, right there on the Astro. So I had to frame that and put a picture. All right, I'm finishing up with one other thing. About 15, 20 years ago, 20 years ago, whenever they tore down the Panther football stadium, when they tore down the football stadium, I don't remember what year, Dickie, you know when they tore it down?
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm driving by here, it's kind of drizzling a little bit, I look over there and they're just sawing down the bleachers. We're talking about right over here. And I pulled in there and said, hey, what's the deal? What are you doing? Well, we're going to salvage the metal. We're going to tear. I said, what are you going to do with the bleachers, the wood? They're just chainsawing it right down, boards this long. This is what this is made of. This is Panther Stadium. I said, can I have some of it? He said, you can have all you want before we burn it. Well, it rained for 3 days. Me and my son hauled every bit of the stadium home. All right, pass these around. Open that up and pass on this side. I made footballs. I made footballs out of the stadium, Alumni Association. Everybody get one. Everybody get one, and I'll show you what we're going to do. Patricia, you are slow. You are so slow.
Well, I was just looking.
Oh, you were just picking a good one. They're all the
No,
same.
no, I'm
They're all the same.
I didn't hear you say it.
There we go.
That is really kind of neat there. I like that.
It smells the same.
This is the lower part of the bleachers. The bleachers are the fixed, but the lower part down under your legs, this is what this is made from. And that's what this is made from. It was great wood. My wife's daddy made frames and all kinds of stuff out of it. I made serving trays and different deals. This is my favorite thing I made out of it. But hold it up to the side of your ear.
Oh, you already go?
You know, everything we do is all done with vibrations and frequencies. Yeah, don't take the rest of my footballs off now. Dickie Dixon, I see you carrying about 10 footballs off.
No, I'm trying to find out.
You know, if you hold a seashell up, you can hear the ocean, they say. Everything that we do is frequency. Everything that we're all frequency. Everything we're looking around, the chair is frequency. And everything we've ever done is a frequency. When I was a little kid, my grandmother lived 300 yards over here by Chambers Park. And we would walk over across that field, and as a little kid, getting out, dressed up, of course, walking across there, and you can hear that bum, 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 bum. Boy, I mean, your heart would be pounding, and the cheers and different things in football, and then the game itself was unbelievable. Lufkin had some unbelievable football teams way back in those days, before they thought baseball would ever make a big deal. But what I'm saying is, you go home and listen sometime, put this to your ear, you can hear the vibration, you can hear the cheering. Believe that? I got something else for you. Last thing. Okay, I've already done the little drawing. Bill Berry got the one. He won the good trade.
I just wanted you to research something. You know, the size of Lufkin, Texas. We've won the Little League now, we won the Pony League, we won the Pony Grad World Series of all three. I don't know how many other teams, we
No
won the
little
state
town.
tournament in baseball in high school. So I don't know how many towns can ever say they've done all of that, except us.
I mean, we're incredible. We're Lufkin, Texas. They know who we are. All right. One last thing. Many years ago when I was living in Houston as a single guy, I went there and thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I changed my mind, but I still was having a lot of fun. And my sister said, why didn't you come home? My older sister, why didn't you come home this weekend? She lived in Diboll. I said, well, why would I want to come home? I'm having a ball. I'm just having a rip-roaring time down here in Houston. I said, well, should have been here. I said, what's the big deal? She said, well, you won't believe who spent the night with us. I said, who spent the night? She said, Mickey Mantle.
Wow.
I said, Linda, don't kid me. Don't kid me like that. Are you serious? She said, yeah. I have pictures of it. Said he's there shooting pool at the table there, and ate dinner with us, spent the night in Ted's room, my nephew, in the single bed in the middle room. He spent the night there. I said, Linda, you don't understand. I'm a kid of the 50s. I mean, I love Jesus. But Mickey Mantle was right there pretty close. You know, back in those days, he was our Babe Ruth. Anyway, for those of you who think I'm lying, here he is. This is my sister's little game room, and right across from the temple office, the little house that's in the middle of the square on Noble Street or whatever it is. That's their house, and my brother-in-law took their garage and made a little game room and a pool table. That's Mickey over here. This is my sister. That's Clay Dubose, and this is Bug Chevins, my brother-in-law. All there together. I stopped by there a few years ago, and I said, there was some people living there, and I went to the door and I said, I got to tell you something, man. You won't believe who slept here in your house. It was a Spanish family. She couldn't speak hardly any English. I said, you just won't believe who stayed. I said, it was Mickey Mantle spent the night in your house.
Did you know who he was?
No. No. Okay. Anyway, that's my Mickey Mantle story. But anyway, here's one last thing. You know, I did the research of where the baseball field was. We know the baseball field is right here. Also, I came up here this week and I looked at my orientation and I said, I know where the home plate was. I know exactly where the home plate was. And so, I made a home plate. As a kind of the size. Home plate, anybody know how big a home plate is? Bill, you don't know. How big is a home plate for Little League?
Oh,
You just call home. 17-inch square. It's a 17-inch square with 8.5 inches down this side. Actually 12 here, 8.5 this way and 12 this way on these parts. And that's but we know right exactly where the plate is going to be, or where it was. So I called Mark Hicks, who is my nephew. His daddy is my first cousin. So I got a little bit of, a little connection. And I said, Mark, let me give you a suggestion. We need a plaque. We need a bronze home plate in the concrete. So I've left him that message and a few others, and I've also got some other people working on the cost of what it would be to put the bronze plate there. But when you leave in here a little bit, and if you don't remember, if I hadn't got the group picture with all of you, with all the players and everything, let's won't do that before you leave. But we want to try to get a bronze inserted plate, the same size, sitting where the Little League park was, right outside the door. When you leave, you turn left, you'll see where I've drawn it in chalk. So that's it. Does anybody else have anything? Dickie?
A lady in Massachusetts does some graphics for us. She laid out those flyers, and Janetta would probably lay that out for you. Whatever design work you want done, probably
Here's
for
what
free.
I love is some engineer,
Yeah.
because I think I did the roof line
Yeah.
in the street, but I wanted it exactly right.
Okay.
And so
I'll
they
give you
could-
her phone number and her
Also, I
email.
called Jenny Flournoy today. I called Jenny, I said, Jenny, she wanted to talk about politics. Jenny, I didn't want to talk about politics, Jenny, I want to talk about ball, I want to talk about Little League. You were instrumental in getting that baseball boy, Little League boy out in front of the museum, Pittsburgh Garrison deal. And I said, I want to know about the bronze. She said, well, it's so hard to find. I don't know if anybody makes bronze. I said, I can find a bronze manufacturer in 15 minutes with the internet. They make bronze things every day. And I said, we need to get that done.
Probably
So
Ted could help you.
it's not very expensive. It was $2,500 to get the ball player. I mean, that's a full little guy. How expensive can it be for a home plate? Just a home plate with raised letters. So anyway, one of these days I may call you up and say, hey, where's your checkbook? You may want to contribute a little bit, and we'll see if we can get that done. Does anybody else have anything they need to have memory, anything you want to share before we close it?
Now, didn't you say that you have evidence that Artie hit the first home run?
No, he was lying. I did. I forgot. The Dixon family does have a claim to fame.
Oh,
Other than Dickie.
Oh. All right. Well, listen, I need to tell you that I told everybody this before you got here, but my sister was in high school. She was a junior the year they won the state championship. I listened to that game on the radio. And by the way, Claire Hunter was at that game. I tried to get Claire to one of these meetings, and I hadn't got her here yet. But one of our salesmen was from Houston for my dad's store. His name was Bono, and his son played for the Bel Air team. And my sister, after we won, sent his son a sympathy card that they had won. So anyway, we were very pleased with all that. Now let me say this: when I was a kid, I played baseball every chance I could. As a matter of fact, I wasn't very good, but there's some papers back there, and we used to play over on Moody Street, corner of Moody and Con. Glory Stringer lived right across from there, and there were some kids named Harold and Robert Nelson. When we didn't play there, we would play behind T.O. McKinney's shop over on Kerr Street, or we'd play up here, And so we would have to play in their backyard when Harold and Robert were grounded. And it wasn't a big yard, and so some of those bigger kids like Mickey Chumley, Mike Gibson, Lloyd Minshew, they would hit it over Moody into Mr. Rosser's garden. Well, I was the outfielder, and I would frenetically go chase down that ball to throw him out at the home plate. Problem was, sometimes Mr. Rosser was in his garden, and I didn't get my ball back when that happened. Every time that happened, I lost the base. So anyway, and I wrote that up in that publication back there. And let me say this, right on your calendars, June 26th, I had promised the 63 team that we would do a 60th anniversary panel discussion for them, but I couldn't get the room on June 5th. The game began at 9 o'clock, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, 9 o'clock that day, that night, and it ended on June 6th. But I couldn't get the room, and so our next meeting date is June 26th. I think Bubba's going to loan me his scrapbook. I'm going to serve as the moderator, and believe me, I'll get out of the way when these guys want to talk. I'm just going to try to be the facilitator. But when I played baseball, my Uncle Truett was my coach, and Doug Orman was on my team, and Bruce Main, I think, maybe Burt Mandeville. And I was so small, I was 10, that would be 4th grade, I guess. And Uncle Truett had a guaranteed walk, I had such a small strike zone, and I was fast on the bases too, but Truett Dixon, James Masters, and then I had another coach. I had Ed Smith, and then I had Jim Sanders, and actually I was on the team with Jim and Tony. And Ed Havard was involved somewhere, and I think in Farm League, I think Ken Barfield was one of our coaches. But anyway, so look, thanks to all of you.
Wait a minute. Where's the ball? Everybody sign?
Right here. You think you can catch it?
Nope. Boy, he was my catcher, and I couldn't catch anything. Dickie Dixon?
Is that for me?
Thank you for your baseball career. All those great things you did as a ball player. You never got to start. You never did that much, but you got a baseball with a bunch of famous people on it.
Now, I have to
Give him a hand.
I have to put that in perspective for you. And when I was on the B team, I got my driver's license that year. I was 15. I was 5'2", and I weighed 97 pounds. And I was not exactly what Butch Wright was looking for as a basketball player. And it was so bad that I wasn't even practicing in practice. And I was losing interest. So for some reason in the season, I decided to shoot sets of 25 free throws. 3 or 4 sets every game. And so January and February of that year, we were playing West Sabine, and the starters were behind 21 points. And so I guess they figured they couldn't do any worse than put us in. So I faked this old boy 4 times, and he fouled me 4 times. Then it was a one-on-one situation. I made all 8 free throws, and I was high point man for the game. Now, the sequel to that story is that Bill Slaughter was there, and if you knew Bill.
Wait a minute, I think we got a storm coming. I think there's a storm coming, Dickie. We may have to shut this game down.
Bill would gamble at the drop of a hat, and he was betting on me that day. And I said, Bill, did you win because of me? I sure did. And thank you for coming.
All right, thank you, guys. Group picture, yeah, we need a group picture. All you baseball players.
Don't go out to eat
Oh, yeah.